nobody really wants to talk about it. The rejection, right? Because it happens in our creative lives and the art that we're trying to push forward, or even me pressing publish on this video. And oftentimes we stop ourselves before we even start because of that fear of the rejection. And or we don't go for more because of that fear of rejection. And I know that fear of rejection on every single side. And what I was working away in the studio this morning, I was thinking about that, because rejection means loss sometimes. And it also sometimes doesn't come with closure or the answer, right? When we submit our art and it doesn't get accepted, we don't know why. No one comes and tells us why. Or when somebody just disappears, no, they don't tell you why. They just disappear. So that in a way is a rejection, especially if you had some kind of relationship there, or, so it's a rejection is a loss. But how do we face rejection, in the artwork and our creative lives, and also just in life, right? Because what the art journey is going to entail, especially if you have bigger goals and desires around it, it's going to entail not just like making artwork, but it's going to entail putting it public facing, sharing it more, applying for things, getting rejected. It's part of the process, but we don't want to hear about the rejection part. And I don't really want to talk about some aspects of the rejection, right? But there's a deeper conversation around this. Is like, what are we in regards to our artwork? What are we really trying to get from it? That's an external idea. Whatever comes from it is just an external thing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have external things. I mean, I desire more external things, if I'm being honest. But my path has been my path, right? That's the whole other thing too, is you have to get solid within yourself, within your creations, within your expressions, and kind of become like, I don't even know what to say, resilient and stronger within the self. As a sensitive person, as a person with a lot of trauma growing up, when I came back to art making, I was going through a huge spiritual emergence and awakening phase, which started in the fall of 2015 in a big way, but technically all my life, right? When I look back, I can see those little pockets of experience that were awakening me and guiding me and moving me to something more. And there's like good moments, and there's hard moments, and there's sad moments, and there's happy moments, and a lot of it though is not as happy as it could have been. But like, it is what it is, right? You can't force it to be what it isn't, and you can't go back and change anything, unfortunately. And you can't like make it be what you'd like it to be, because it's not just you, right? A lot of the times. But what you can do in all of these situations in life, and our creative pursuits, and our whatever our heart desires, we can get like stronger within ourselves, and we can learn how to like carry ourselves forward. Well, even when we fall down, we can get back up, and you're gonna fall down. I mean, maybe you're not. Maybe, I feel like if no one says they've ever hit like a dark night of a soul period, I don't know, I just don't believe them. Like, what do you mean? I've been here 44 years now, and I've seen XYZ, so, I don't know. It can't all be rainbows and, sunshine all the time, right? We need to have contrast in life, and then we need to have contrast in art in order to see it, apparently, and that's what they say. But what happens is the contrast does create the differences, right? And I always look at all these hard times and all the crazy stories and even the good stuff. You know, it's all just reference points. So if you've lived a crazy life like me, you got a lot of reference points. So you've been to a lot of places, and well, that makes me me, but it also makes you you. What I'm trying to say is you can really take that thing and move it into an emotion and a mark and a color and a line and a shape and a form. So that's what's cool about art making, because you could technically take the saddest thing, mix it up and put it out there, and it's not really the saddest thing, but only the artist technically knows the real truth behind their work, right? But people can guess, and maybe even I talk about it or you talk about it, but you don't really know until you know. Yeah, you know? How many times can I say no? But in regards to rejection, it's gonna happen, and it doesn't feel very good when it happens. It actually hurts a lot, especially when there's like no answers to why it happened, and no closure. And a lot of times we really desire an answer outside of ourselves. Please give me an answer. But what happens when you don't get an answer? And what happens when you submitted that artwork and it gets rejected and you take it personal and you're like, and they don't tell you why, you know? They don't tell you they just didn't like a blue painting or something. I don't know, like, so you like are kind of left with like these things and you don't know, like, so a lot of times you're kind of just guessing to try to get this like acceptance, and what is the rejection ultimately? It is like in alignment with like some kind of goal, right? Because you don't necessarily want, maybe even have the goal of submitting the artwork and trying to get it accepted, and then it gets rejected, and then dealing with all of those feelings around it. But if you do it enough, eventually you'll just get used to that's how it is. It doesn't make it easier though. It's hard when like you try so hard and you're working and working and working, and then it, you know, goes south, or you give your all to something and everything, situation, and then it just doesn't exist anymore. It's like bizarre. Like those rejection moments, they really change us though, you know. And we learn that we can be stronger within that adversity of receiving the rejection. But, you know, it might take time to like weed it out and move back into the center of ourselves and open our heart again and try to learn from the experience the best we can. And in regards to art, maybe we won't even keep trying to apply for these things because it's like, what is the point? But then maybe there'll be a period in your life where you'll start to do it again, and you know, it's like this ebb and flow, kind of knowing where to push and where to pull and what is worth it and what's not. But we don't always know until we try, and we you know. And as much as there is rejection, there is the acceptance eventually. But, like, we don't want the acceptance or the rejection really to, like, interfere with what we're doing. Because when we attach to that stuff, whether it's positive or negative or whatever, I think that those are the biggest mistakes, right? Because that's really not who you are in the negative stuff, and that's not just who you are in the positive stuff. And working that all out and like realizing you still have many, many, many other sides. It's not just black and white. It's not just a yes or a no, you know. But sometimes it is. So it's kind of learning to kind of move into these experiences and these moments and these seasons of our life and let it unfold. But sometimes it's a darker maybe period, or you know, the rug has gotten pulled out from under us and we don't know why. But what's great about art and creativity and expression is that once we kind of get our grounding again, we can come back with this understanding and also use all those times to create the artwork, especially if it's like raw, expressive, you know, abstract, energetic, emotional. If you're working from those places and that's the desire, there's a lot that you can do with it, like using the past circumstances to kind of entertain like a new vision. And I'm always interested in that alchemy of art and that like transformation and that transference and kind of the dropping of all worlds and just letting it all be. But rejection is part of the process, and we even will reject ourselves and reject what we're doing or bring in too much judgment at times. But, you know, you also have to contend with yourself as much as maybe even more so than contending with people and things outside of ourselves, right? Because ultimately, you are still going to do the work, hopefully, right? You're not going to just quit. That would be silly. And believe me, this is coming from someone who's quit plenty of times. But it's like once you get over that, however many humps, I don't know, it could be a lot depending on what you've been through. You got more power and reserve and strength. Yeah. To carry you through. So I don't want to, it's kind of true when they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But, I mean, take that for what it's worth. There's a lot of different incidences we can have been involved in, right? So sometimes those platitudes are not good, but, you know, it's just like it's kind of true though, I've found out. I don't know. Maybe that's why they have the saying, because somebody experienced that and then they can relate to it. It doesn't mean we wanted those things to happen though, oh gosh, no. So there's something about learning to separate that out, right? It's not like nobody deserves certain things in life, but sometimes life just happens, and you can't control what you were born into or how you were treated by somebody else that formed you and raised you. It's a lot to contend with and work through. The thing I like a lot about art making and learning to express and creativity is because, well, I could take those moments from the past. Now that I'm like, you know, mostly healed from them. I'm not, you know, nobody's 100% healed from anything really, because depending on the day, the memory surfaces and then you're right back into that moment, you know? I don't know. But that's why art making is great, because you say that moment and that memory's arising right now, you just take that into the expression and you move that energy and that emotion. And that gives it a new understanding, a new relationship, and a new form. within the self too. It's like really powerful, and I'm really interested in it because I've seen it happen time after time after time since I've been working diligently over the past 6 years, but also a lifetime in order to heal these things, the traumas and the abuses and the grievances. But that's why art is so cool, because you also don't ever have to say it. I'm just kind of interested in exposing the things behind the things, because it's definitely not always what it seems, and it's important for me to just follow this direction and kind of talk about harder things, because who wants to talk about rejection? I mean, who wants to admit it didn't really work out, or somebody like stabbed you in the back, or and you didn't see it coming? Who wants to, those are the hard things in life. And then who wants to say, oh, I've been trying and trying and trying to get this thing here, and it just isn't happening. That's hard to say those things. And I think, though, that's what makes me, interested in, the raw abstract expressionism. And not just intuitive, but, really working into the energy and the emotion of, you can channel that anger, you can channel that rage, and it becomes, powerful, but, you can reverse it, too. That is awesome, because, you're in control as the artist and the creator, and as the person who wants to express what's happened in any kind of way, right? And some people are more interested in, pulling back the curtain, or taking off the masks, right? But then sometimes we hide in it too. And it's probably just depending on the day, right? I'm not saying one is right or wrong. It's just what are you or me most interested in expressing and creating and doing and saying, and it can be whatever you want it to be, and it can be whatever I want it to be, but somewhere hopefully we can meet in the middle, right? And it's hard though, because judgment often happens. And then that's kind of another form of rejection, if you think about it. We judge ourselves, so we reject our experiences. We judge someone else, and we reject them for whatever it is. And also then we blame everything around us, but really, ultimately, we are part of probably the problem when we turn it around and look back at ourselves. Those are the harder things to face, when you realize that you're just a part of it sometimes, and sometimes you're not a part of it, but it depends on the day, it depends on the moment, it depends on the experience, it depends on the choices that we've made, right? Or didn't make, for that matter. But also in regards to rejection, it's going to happen, just like failure. And people don't like that word either. I don't like it either. But I think what I've noticed when I got rejected a lot of times, not just in art but in life, and the failure kind of happens, you kind of learn to work that out within yourself, and eventually not take it on, and just realize that this is separate from this, but yet the body and the mind and the spirit and energy is moving that emotion and energy. So, it is all connected, but it's kind of having these vigilant stances, look at this, and look at that, and look at this, and don't attach to that, Don't attach to that either, because, tomorrow could be totally different. So it's staying present and open in that moment, and also accepting the consequences on the way down or on the way up, depending on which way you're going. You never know, really. mean, I laugh about it, but I know it's not easy, and I think I laugh because I like know that in those harder moments when it feels like everything is lost and you just are crying in the car because you tried so hard in October. That's happened to me. You realize that, you know, it's just a moment, and then you gotta release it somehow. So crying is a way to release it, and making artwork is a way to release it. So it happens, right? I don't know, like, it's emotional. It should be, especially if you're making this kind of work. But you don't give up, right? And that's one thing life has taught me about being rejected from a young age, and kind of having that theme of abandonment play out throughout my life somehow. Something was always like there with me, trying to guide me, you know? Like, I didn't always see it, and I didn't always like attach to the thing, because I don't know, I was just so sensitive, and that's what makes it sometimes more challenging to bring your artwork forward when you're so sensitive, and, you know, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and, you know, it wasn't just a game, these things, like, when you interact with something that means something to you so much. But, you know, we don't always get the answers, and ultimately we have to dial it back to ourselves and kind of move out from, like, what we come to learn through these hard experiences and through living. And the life experience actually can be the wisdom and the gateway and the entryway into what kind of expression you want to make. So when we turn and face that harder part of ourselves, that part we fear, the part we long to share, that can really be like the potent place to go. But it's gonna require work, and it's gonna require probably more rejection. And it's scary, it is, but I know it's possible to keep moving through it and become like unstoppable.